Hey guys, welcome back to Camp Legend Network. My name is Mark, and I got Ian with me because last time we did a video together, I paused for way too long.
Yeah.
So I just said your name for you this time, man.
No, I appreciate that. It's less awkward. Although we left it in and I got a good chuckle out of it when I went and watched it back. So
Yeah,
I
it
think it
was
was
it
worth
was in there.
it.
Um, so here's the thing, Ian. I just feel like with every Star Wars announcement, you get a little bit more enticed to play Star Wars Unlimited.
It's true. I mean, I guess I technically do play it. I'm playing in the Discord league, but that's about
Yeah,
all I play it. And with my dad when I go and visit. So that's it. But not gonna lie, every set is more exciting. Every new leader is more gets my brain spinning on the things that I think that Star Wars does really well as a card game compared to the other games I'm playing in Pokemon and Lorcana. And they all have their strengths and weaknesses. But I think the strengths of Star Wars are really continuing to bubble up to the surface, and so I'm really excited for these new cards. Honestly, the new keywords and concepts at play. I think that the devs are getting better at leaning into the things that are really good about Star Wars, instead of trying to do lookalikes of other games, which is kind of how I felt in the first set at times.
yeah, except the artwork, which is we're going to talk
Well,
about that, I'm sure.
yes.
Yeah. So we're going to be talking about a new set coming out, Twilight of the Republic, a sort of
Hmm.
Clone Wars era themed set, which is freaking amazing for Ian and I, who I think would both agree that the best Star Wars media is animated media. And it's just our favorite. And Clone Wars, I just have such a sweet spot in my heart for,
Yeah.
and I love it. So we're excited to talk about that. It comes out November the 8th. So just 2 days shy of 2 full months away. So it'll be here before we know it. And spoiler season has started. So we're going to talk today about 5 of the leaders that have been spoiled so far, along with some of their associated keywords, new mechanics, and cards that go along with them. And then we're just going to take a little last stab at hey, a character or a leader that we would love to see come out in the set from Clone Wars era. What is something that we're hoping to see? And hopefully it comes out and we can talk about it later as
Yeah.
well. So with no further ado, I'm going to go ahead and pull up the display for all the cards for the most part that have been revealed that are over on the Star Wars Unlimited official website, with the exception of one of the leaders. And just to start us off really strong and in the most painful of ways, let's talk about this hideous Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Oh yeah.
Um, can we just get the clearly photoshopped head of Obi-Wan with a completely different art style on Obi-Wan's body out of the way? I mean,
Yeah.
how did this happen?
Especially and honestly, it's a particularly vanilla artwork, even if they had done, you know, even if they had not made the face and the body look wrong. It also, looking at the texturing on the hair, the hard line where it's it doesn't look like, it looks like a hair piece and not
Yes.
not actually dynamic hair. I mean, I'm sorry, David Busan, the artist.
Yeah.
I'd hate to roast you, man. I'm not a fan. I don't know if it's your fault. I don't know if it's their fault, but whatever. It doesn't look good, and it's such an iconic character. I mean, if you think about Star Wars and you're like, what are the 3 most iconic characters? I actually would say it would be Yoda, followed by Darth Vader, followed by Obi-Wan. Not even Luke or Anakin or anything. That's just my opinion. I just think that Obi-Wan is the height of iconic. So I don't mind necessarily the classic Obi-Wan Clone Wars stance.
Yeah.
Um,
But put him in
but
his Clone Wars armor.
yeah, put him in his general armor.
Yeah.
And honestly, maybe a little zoomed out, so we can see. I think this is supposed to be in the Geonosis arena, if I'm guessing based on the artwork. But
Yeah, it's
the
certainly on
face, the face
Geonosis.
and the body looks like they were 2 different things that were overlapped onto each other and don't make much sense together.
Yeah.
It doesn't look good. It just
I
doesn't look
believe
good.
that David B made a part of this artwork. I'm not sure which part. I think he made the face or the rest, but I cannot believe that David made both of these.
Yeah, no, that doesn't feel right. Yeah.
It looks like somebody clipped Obi-Wan's head out of a magazine and pasted it over David's artwork and was just like, "That'll do." There we
Yeah.
go. Okay, so significantly roasted. We're not going to harp on that too much. Obi-Wan comes down. He has an action, exhaust him, heal 1 damage from a unit, which is a pretty decent, just sort of like something you could certainly use with a high
Yeah.
level of consistency. Force, Jedi, and Republic keyword. We already know that Force is important. Jedi's already seen some cards that synergize with it. We're believing that Republic is going to be a pretty important keyword, especially with the most recent leader, which we'll look at in a bit. And then you can flip him on 6 resources. He flips as a 4/7 with Sentinel. So, pretty standard stat line. Once again, I think Boba Fett being the outliner, this is Bo-Katan, this is
Mhm.
Gar Saxon, this is all of your normal ones. 4/7, pretty similar, but Sentinel's pretty good. And then on attack, heal 1 damage from a unit if you deal 1 damage to a different unit. So once again, just sort of like if you have damaged units, like a pretty solid ability. Like it's very easy to use. It's not super specific. You can't only do this to heroism units or only doing it to Republic units or only doing it to Jedi units. So for me, outside of the artwork, I think Obi-Wan, he competes with maybe like Rey, who's kind of in a similar spot. But I think Obi-Wan brings some stuff to the sort of vigilance heroism faction combo that Rey does not. So I think he's pretty playable, honestly.
Yeah, I like this a lot. I think the Sentinel on the flip is going to be, huge in a lot of scenarios. I also do like, I think, the concepts at play with the healing. Um, Healing 1 over the course of the game, and especially not having to pay any resources for it, is going to sort of allow you to effectively drop units, get a value trade, and then increase their expected time on the board, which is a
Mhm.
great way to help you snowball an advantage. I love the sort of conceptually with Obi-Wan that it's the healing slash, especially the on attack, the redirecting that 1 damage feels very in tune with his sort of defensive lightsaber fighting style, and redirecting blaster bolts and playing, into that idea of Obi-Wan as that, like, not just a sentinel on the card, but like a sentinel within that Clone Wars Jedi era. Um, and I just think it's really flavorful despite being simple. So I'm a big fan of this unit.
Yeah, I think that simple's good in this case. Like we saw this a
Yeah.
lot in set 2, where a lot of the leaders that weren't simple but had like really like abilities that centered around bounties or centered around a specific mechanic
Yeah.
didn't fare as well as some of the set 1 leaders that just pinged your bases for 1 or just healed for 1, for
Yeah.
example. Um those things that kind of are universal across the board tend to give you more deck building capability, which I personally really enjoy. Um, and continuing in that similar theme, we have Maul, who's aggression, villainy with force, and underworld. So I love that we continue the underworld tag from set 2, brought in here to your Maul leader. I think that's interesting. He has an action, attack with a unit, so it is an action cheat. So you're spending this as an action, but you're also attacking with that same action. So that's nice.
Hmm.
It keeps you, getting to initiative faster. It gains overwhelm for this attack. So just get to give something overwhelm. Okay, it's interesting. And
Yeah.
then when he flips on 6. He comes in as a 6/6, which I think is favorable over a 4/7. Obviously, they each trade into each other over 2 attacks, but I think for a lot of what the field is doing right now, for things like Poe Dameron and Wrecker, I think that the 6/6 is probably favorable over the 4/7, which just flat out loses to Poe Dameron's attack plus his ability, or just
Hmm.
flat out dies to a 7/6 Wrecker. Um, so I think the 6/6 is favorable. 6/6 with overwhelm, and each other friendly unit gains overwhelm. Another kind of similar to Obi-Wan, like this is just
Yeah.
does the thing that it's doing, and that's good. like, it just pings a little bit of damage over the top, and then it comes down and says, "We're gonna continue to control the board while also throwing a little bit of damage at your base until we literally overwhelm you with the overwhelm keyword." I'm in favor of this Maul, and I like his artwork too. I think that this is probably another card that's going to see a lot of play in sort of like a red villainy mid-range deck, which I love that they're pushing more and more of these sort of like chunky mid-rangey cards
Yeah.
into aggression last set in this set.
Yeah, I think that with this, the success of this is going to come down to the quality of cards that go with it, aka like you need units that are some combination of high attack and resilient in some way, shape, or form. Whether that's through a shield, whether that's through just overstated, like with a downside. We see a lot of that in these sorts of like creature trading games, right? Where you have like something that's really big stats, but comes at a cost. And I think that if we see enough of those things, Maul's advantage of being able to have something push damage to face during a character on character challenge or attack, um, you're going to see it sort of snowball into this board where, like, yes, you're building a board, you're trying to 2-for-1 all of your opponent's stuff, or at best 1-for-1 while also pushing damage. But I really think that as great as the leader is, it's going to come down to quality of units that you can put in the deck. And so that's something to like keep our eyes out, is things that really fit that mold of high enough attack where you're actually pushing damage, right? But also, isn't just going to like be paper thin and die to removal before you get a chance to attack with overwhelm.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that there's some cards in existence that fit that pretty well. But neither of these actually come with the new keywords. And the next
Right.
two leaders that are going to be your base set leaders, so they're going to come in the two-player starter kit. So Maul, Obi-Wan, both common leaders. These next two are going to come in your two-player starter kit. Ahsoka Tano, who has coordinate, exhaust her. An attack with a unit, it gets +1/+0 for this attack, and you gain this ability if you control 3 or more units. So coordinate is active and can be used as soon as you control 3 or more units. The
Mm-hmm.
character that has coordinate can count towards that. It's not 3 other units, it's 3 or more. She flips on 5 as a Force Jedi Republic 3/6. With coordinate, this unit gets a +2/+0. So if you have her plus 2 other units, she does flip on 5 with the Force keyword. And she would basically be she would be not like a raid, not only on attack, but like a consistent. As long as you
Yeah.
have 3 units on the board, she's a
5/6. Yeah.
5/6 on 5, which is with Force is strong. Like that's
Yeah.
statted well. My initial gut reaction is I'm really don't know how good coordinate is, because you don't get to use this ability turn 1. You may not get to use it turn 2. So, and when you can't use your leader's ability the first couple turns, it's going to be hard. Now, this
Mm-hmm.
synergizes with a lot of the other cards that we're going to see in the set that do this, which is I just broke the computer, evidently, which is summoning things. And this one isn't showing up, but basically there's going to be cards in this set that summon either clone troopers or battle droids. Battle droid is a villainy 0-cost 1/1 with separatist
Mm-hmm.
droid trooper, and clone trooper is a heroism 0-cost 2/2 with republic clone trooper. So a lot of the stuff in the set is trying to spit out droids and clones that you can use for things like coordinate and another ability that we'll talk about here in a minute. What's your initial take on Ahsoka Tano?
Yeah, I think your instinct on this is right. I think it is generally not ideal to have a leader that can't be used in the first turn or two. Now, that doesn't mean that it fully won't, like that doesn't mean we know that it can't be usable. I think back to Elder Scrolls Legends, and I think about some of the 1 and 2 cost cards that all it does is you play it and you summon tokens. I would not be totally surprised to see some sort of like command heroism, 1 cost or 2 cost that summoned 2 clone troopers, right? Just as like a let's get started with the tokens. It's all it is tokens. You get no other benefit. So like,
So we
yeah,
have
we've got one right
manufactured
here.
soldiers, which is a literally you said command. It's double command, 3 cost. Choose one, make 2 clone trooper tokens or 3 battle droid tokens. Which this isn't a turn one play, but you can see kind of here what you're thinking. It's
Yeah.
that there's going to be ways to dump these tokens onto the board.
And if we have ways to dump 2 tokens on turn 1, then I think we're fine. And I think Ahsoka is a lot more viable, right? Right now, from the things I've seen, we don't have a way to dump 2 tokens on turn 1, but we don't know that that won't be added at some point, right? That seems like the kind of card that would make sense. I mean, we have ways. Remember, we have ways in the game currently to dump 3-4 stats on turn 1, right? 2 or 3 different ways to do it. And a 3-4 is more valuable than 2-2-2s in most scenarios because the stats are distributed separately, right? And so I would not be fully surprised, although a strong card, if something like that existed. Imagine a card that was like, play 2 clone troopers and give your opponent a battle droid, right?
Yeah.
Things like that. So I think Ahsoka is still like on the table, but with what we've seen so far, I'm a little underwhelmed about the, active ability. The flip ability, I think, is pretty great. It's simple, but like a 5/6 on 5, with
Force Jedi
with
Republic
Force Jedi
keywords are
Republic,
good.
it's good. Yeah, it's good. So I don't think coordinate is going to be as hard to achieve as a lot of people do, especially since this, when you flip it, would count towards coordinate as a unit. So yeah, I don't think it's that bad, but I don't think it's as good as General Grievous.
Yeah, which I'm excited for. General Grievous, first off, great artwork. Like I think the
Yeah,
artwork on
brilliant. One
this
of the best
was
artworks in
was
this.
well done. Cunning
Yeah,
villainy, which honestly, like just the yellow color of cunning with the black
yeah,
fits Grievous so well. Like it just
yes.
the border makes sense on this card.
Hmm.
Action, give a droid unit sentinel for this phase, and then you can flip him on 6. And on 6, he comes out as a 4/8, which is pretty freaking good because I
Beefy.
just got done saying 6 cost 4/7 is the standard. That one extra health is not a small amount. That's not a small thing. Like there's a lot of things that this will live through, even 2 attacks from now because of the 8 health. On attack, you may give a droid unit +1/+0 in Sentinel for this phase. So you attack, boost your droid, and give it Sentinel. I want to highlight what I think this very clearly goes with, which is, of course, anything that's going to put battle droids onto the field, but it
Hmm.
also coordinates pretty well with exploit. So, for example, this Hellfire tank, or Hailfire tank rather, has exploit
Hmm.
2. When playing this card, defeat up to 2 units. That's the 2 in exploit. The card costs 2 less for each unit defeated this way. So in this case, it's an 8 cost. If you defeated a couple of 1/1 battle droids, this thing becomes a 4 resource 7/6. So exploit is going to be probably on several different cards that you're going to
Hmm.
be able to make your big stuff less expensive by sacrificing some of the battle droids that you put down. You combine that with Grievous's desire to not just have those tokens pumped out, but then to give them Sentinel to protect you so that you can drop him on 6 as a big
Yeah.
old chunk in 4/8. I don't know what he gets combined with. It's probably aggression. It's probably a yellow red deck, which is super exciting because outside of CAD red, we haven't seen a lot of that in the game yet. And then just this ability to consistently give Sentinel to your units, forcing you to actually have chump blockers, which don't exist in this game because you don't choose to block. Well, guess
Right.
what? Now you get a chump blocker basically every round because you're going to play a deck that's constantly putting droids out. And to be clear, this is not just B1 battle droid, right? It's not limited to the token battle droid. You can also put it on the Separatist Commando, who's a droid. You can put it
Yep.
on the Droid Decay. You can put it on,
You could put it on
the B1 attack platform.
yeah. There's a lot you can do with this. You can put it on the Hailfire tank, fun fact, which is not only a vehicle but also a droid.
Yes.
And so there's some really cool stuff to look at here. I also think that Command could be another great one because Command seems to have a lot of ways to spawn tokens. Um, and you've got General's Guardian, which if you give that Sentinel, then when they have to attack it, you'll get a Battle Droid token for next turn Sentinel, right?
Yep.
You've got Kraken, which is the tactical droid, right?
Two
Which
five
creates more.
summon.
Yeah,
Yeah, creates more, gives them bonuses, makes them tougher. Yeah.
yeah, a lot of cool stuff to dig into, and we still haven't really seen much in the vigilance sphere for villainy. So
We haven't seen much for villainy, period. To be entirely fair, like
yeah,
we've seen more heroism so far for this set than we have villainy.
and not to be underestimated, there are some droid space units, so some cool stuff to look at there.
Well, and there's droids from previous sets. This is not a new
True,
keyword, whereas
true.
Republic is a new keyword, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it might be on Mace Windu. But for the
I
most
think it
part,
is.
what was that?
I think it is on Mace Windu now.
Yeah, I feel like it is as well. But my point is, for the most part, it's relatively new. Clone is new,
Yeah.
for the most part, except for the Bad Batch. So you have a little bit of synergy, but I think you have more existing droid synergy
Right.
that's out there. The last leader is Padme Amidala. We got the big image of her here. She was
Very
just released
nice.
today as of recording. Naboo Republic official. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Which, official is important for villainy, not so much here. Naboo, we have no idea if that's going to be important at all. Heroism, villainy, or sorry, heroism and command. She has coordinate. So another one, you have to have 3 things on the board.
Uh-huh.
Pay 1, exhaust hers. This is an action. Search the top 3 cards of your deck for a Republic card, reveal it, and draw it. So sort of like a very stumpy sort of tutoring. If you have coordinate, to just go get specifically Republic cards. Of course, if you're playing Padme, you're probably playing a lot of, if not all, Republic cards.
Right.
She flips at 5 as a 2/7 with restore 1, and then coordinate on attack instead of exhausting her. Search the top 3 cards for Republic card, reveal it, and draw it. So interesting. Padme's card advantage. Once again, probably not something you're doing for the first couple of turns unless we can put a lot of clone troopers on the board.
Right.
In that case, I wonder how beneficial it is if you're playing a swarm deck to be going and getting new cards. Maybe it's super valuable because maybe you're going to be running out of cards and Padme is just going to basically keep a constant flow of forces. The tutoring is really nice. Like, this is basically scrying draw 1 in Magic the Gathering, right? Look at the top couple cards, pick one that you want, reveal it, put it in your hand.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty good there. I don't think it fixes your draw because you put the other cards on the bottom of your deck in a random order. So the other 2 you're going to mix up and put on the bottom. So
Sure.
This is not a draw fix. I think this is obviously a lot stronger if it's also fixing your draw for the next turn. I think I would be way hotter on her for that if that's what she did. I think I like Ahsoka's coordinate more than this. I feel like it has more impact, but I don't know. Am I crazy about this? Because I literally just saw it.
I mean, I think if we flip over to the unit side, I think that this is what I like about it. I feel like you play it for the unit, which comes out on 5, has a restore, and basically lets you draw a card on attack. I think that's what is the best part about this card. Now, obviously, later in the game is when, after she gets inevitably sent back to her leader side, spending 1 to draw is not as hard. And here's the thing to remember: a lot of these swarm/token decks, they tend to have a lot of cheaper cards that you're sort of playing out, especially these clones where you're not, dropping these, massive hailfire tanks and stuff like that. I suspect, and this is just purely based on past experiences with token decks in other games, a lot of times it's easy for them to get an empty hand size, and it's easy to get into the late game and be like, I can't spend all of my resources. So you're forced to either stop resourcing in this game, right, and just play out the cards that way, or resource and understand, like, hey, I I probably can't spend all my stuff. This, I think, will bridge that gap a little bit, right, into that mid to late game where you're trying to play a swarm archetype and you're trying to close games out, and you want to make sure that you can, play 2-3 cards around. even in that mid game. So I do think that it does kind of stink the early game, where it still falls into the same thing as Ahsoka, where like it kind of requires you to have a way to get tokens out fast so that you can use that that card draw if you need it. It does like also slot in, like, think about how many times you have a floating resource. Like, it
Hmm.
happens a lot, even in decks that are super optimized and you're really trying to run linearly, right? But like, there's still times when a Sabine deck is like, I have 4 resources, but I only have a 3, resource thing, and well, it's what I have to play, right? So I think that there's gonna be times where like Padme, and it's not just draw a card, it's better than draw a card. It's draw a card that you get to pick out of 3 cards, assuming enough of your deck is Republic, right?
Yeah, that it wouldn't fizzle. I think it's very unlikely. Probably if
You
you're
won't
playing
build a
this,
deck that fizzles with
yeah,
this. Like,
yeah. I don't think you play a deck that can fizzle. Like, or
yeah.
it's extremely unlikely. And that, like, in this deck, let's be fair, is probably playing Spark of Hope to ramp. It's probably playing Resupply to ramp as well because it's playing Command.
Mm-hmm.
So you are probably playing those cards. So maybe this is sort of like a slower burn token deck, right? That's going
Yeah.
to keep producing and producing. And it's like, I'm going to pause you up in the early game. I'm going to play some restore. We are going to go to late game with a little bit of ramp. I am going to drop big things, but I'm also going to keep dropping a lot of tokens and small things and keeping this going. And so maybe this isn't sort of like the swarm token deck that Ahsoka wants to be. Maybe this is in the slightly more mid-range outvalue you, because this, you can't, like, out of all of the leaders, this is a really hard card to beat in terms of value if you can
Yeah.
consistently be drawing one for one resource. Like, it, you're never going to burn this deck out of cards. It's going to be able to keep consistently resourcing when you're going to have to stop to be able to try to match its card advantage. So on that side of things, it is cool. Like, her ability is just as relevant at the end of the game as it is in the beginning of the game, maybe more so the further you go in, especially after turn 3. And I do like that. Like, I think that is cool. And you're not really threatening to lose your cards by triggering the coordinate, whereas you look with some of these other cards that have coordinate, right? Like Kiadi Monday, I probably butchered that, right? Like, yeah, he has coordinate, and like this is going to trigger, so that's kind of similar. But there are lots of cards that have like coordinate. It only works when you're attacking, right? And
Right.
so, you get the coordinate, but like, okay, this guy's got coordinate ambush. Well, you're probably the Coruscant guard. You're probably, it's great, but you're probably suddenly losing your ability to coordinate now because he's probably trading in and going away. Whereas she's just sitting there, and every time you can coordinate, you don't need to be attacking like you have to do with
Yeah.
sort of like an Anakin or something. And I like that.
Yeah. I think she's gonna be proved to be better than first impressions, especially because I think she scales with the number of Republic cards that are in the deck so that you can be picking the right one for the right time. And I think overall, just drawing a card is really, really, really good in any game like this. So anytime you see draw a card, I mean, there's a reason. And I different scenario, but I almost see this as like how we look at Palpatine and we're like, wow, it's kind of crazy that dude can just be drawing cards,
Mm-hmm.
by sacrificing things that he doesn't even want. And sometimes it's even great because you can sack a laser tech or whatever. You know what I mean? So like, I will always give the benefit of doubt to a card that lets you draw.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to close down this video by not talking about the cards that have been revealed, but instead, both as Clone Wars lovers, we want to talk about a card that we'd love to see added in. We don't need to get into the details, just like a character. I'd love to see them as a leader, or I'd love to see them as a card. Um, Ian, for you, what is the Clone Wars era card, leader, whatever action that you feel like you'd like to see in this?
Yeah. So I've been thinking about that. Since we knew we were going to do this. And a couple things came to mind, but I decided to focus on leader, and a leader that, like, obviously, I'm not going to say Yoda because we all know Yoda's probably going to get a leader, right? You
Yes.
look at cards like that, you're like, Count Dooku almost certainly getting a leader. It's fine, no need to rush it, right? So I'm thinking more along the lines of, if they included this leader, I'd be like, oh, now that's a cool inclusion because it's something that feels non-obvious. And I think the one that I came up with was uh, Duchess Satine Kryze. So Duchess of Mandalore
Oh yeah.
during the Clone Wars, major, like Mandalore was a key sort of plot line within the course of the Clone Wars that I think gets overlooked sometimes, right? But it was one of those things where like, Satine was trying to keep Mandalore neutral in the conflict. And I would love to see some sort of really like odd mechanic around, Satine. And I can almost even see like it would be weird and people would have to figure it out. But I can almost see Satine as like um just a command, no heroism or villainy tag, right? And says something along the lines of, even though she was a good guy, so maybe that's wrong, but like seeing a tag something along the lines of like, you can ignore the heroism or villainy aspects for Mandalorians. So you could play
Oh, the
all
good
the
and bad.
good and bad Mandalorians all under Satine's rule, right? I think that could be really sick as a way to like, because you want to play some of the like Death Watch guys, but you also want to play some of the night owls and whatever. Like, I think that could be really cool. Is the idea of like she's trying to unite Mandalore. Now, obviously, maybe that's not the way to go. Maybe it could be cool to see something like. I think like, oh, like you get some sort of major benefit if you don't have any Republic or Separatist characters out or something like that, because that was sort of the main struggle. But I think there's something cool to be explored in like one of those leaders that's like, oh yeah, they're doing something weird with this. And I love that every set so far has had a couple leaders where you're like, okay, there's something weird. They're doing something weird and different, kind of like Dr. Afra. And so I'm like, I would love to see something like that.
I like that. I think for me, the first one was going to be Asajj Ventress, but she's already been revealed as a card for set 3 through the little bundles that you can get,
Yep.
like the blacked out bundles that you can get. So that's kind of cheating. I The two that I would love to see, one as a leader, one as a card, because I can't just resist. Mace Windu, I would love to see as a leader.
Mm-hmm.
I think that he would be a really fun leader to have. I don't know what he's probably
Probably
vigilance,
Oh, I was gonna
maybe
say
aggression.
aggression. Yeah.
Yeah, but his card is already in aggression, so I would think that they'd probably split that. Maybe they wouldn't. But the card that I really want, this is not. I know this one is not going to be a leader, but it's going to be a card. Is Kit Fisto.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
Kit is one of my like
I love Kit.
all-time favorite Jedi.
Same.
Like the smirk, the smile. Plo Koon and Kit Fisto are two of my favorite Jedi. Period. And so of course, we'd love to see a Qui-Gon. There's got to be a Qui-Gon eventually.
I think they're not going to do that for this one. I think they're going to
Okay.
hold off for like what is it, Legacy of the Force or Legends of the Force or something like that.
Oh yeah, that
That's
one's
my
coming out.
prediction. I am a huge Qui-Gon fan, but I think if you look at it, most of the cards are focused on like episode 2 and 3, and I think they're like
Yeah.
not doing much with episode 1. Also, not to interrupt your thought process here, but like a Republic Palpatine, like a Palpatine
Oh,
with the Republic tag that can use heroism Republic tokens. That just came into my brain. Like you can ignore the hero aspect for Republic units or something like
cards
that.
with Republic. Oh, that would be
Right?
so
Wouldn't that be
interesting.
so?
So you
But a
could play
villainy, but
like
he'd be villainy,
he would be
right?
villainy, but he could ignore heroism for anything with the Republic tag.
Yeah, and maybe there's a cost to it or something like that, or maybe there's a downside, like like once per turn or something you can do it, right? Because like he doesn't want to give himself away, right? You know what I mean? Like because he's all like
Yeah.
operating in the shadows. I think that would be the sickest thing is Chancellor Palpatine as a like super
Cool.
playing both sides. You got battle droids and you got clone troopers out at the same time.
That would be really cool. Yeah. No, I think I didn't even think about that, but yeah, to have a chancellor character, oh, that would be really nice.
Right, right.
There's so many cool things obviously they could do with this era, and it's probably not going to be the last time we're going to see them visit it. So super pumped about that. We got Savage Press who's coming out in it.
Mm-hmm.
Savage, yeah, and then Asajj Ventress
Oh,
we
Mother
know is coming
Talzin.
out. What was that?
Mother Talzin. of the Night Sisters.
The Mother Talzin would be a really cool character. There's some super cool huts that are in the Clone
Mm-hmm.
Wars
Mm-hmm.
that we would, maybe getting a chance to see. I think that a lot of the super cool clone troopers from the 501st, Commander Cody, and things from the unit that travels with Obi-Wan. I just feel like there's so many characters that we could potentially see, and that's not even getting into all of the bounty hunters and sort of like the scum and villainy that you encounter throughout the Clone Wars animated
Yeah,
series as
yeah.
well. Praise God, Jar Jar Binks is not a leader yet. I hope that they won't make that mistake.
Not yet. Not
Senator
yet.
Jar Jar as a leader.
It would be funny if they did like a cause just like with McClunky, if they did some sort of nod to like Sith Jar Jar as like a within the card art or something like a I don't know. I think that there could be something cool there. Yeah, I'm really pretty amped up for this entire set. And this is kind of the thing that like everybody knew, like things are going to get crazy when the Clone Wars is introduced, because that is like the premiere. I think at this stage, it is everyone's favorite era of Star Wars.
Yep.
Okay, everyone. It is the majority of people's favorite era of Star Wars, and so it's just really, really satisfying to see all these things printed on a card in this new game that we love. So, yeah.
Yep, super pumped for it. Well, let us know in the comments below what you're most excited for and what cards you would like to see come out in
Mm-hmm.
the Twilight of the Republic set, releasing on November the 8th. I'm going to continue to do some content. Hopefully, me and Ian will as well, talking about the new cards as we approach November 8th over the next couple of months. And hopefully, I'll come up with a couple of spicy lists that I'm still working on in the background for set 2 as well. Thank you for tuning in for this episode. Make sure that you like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon here on the channel so that you know whenever we put out new content. If you like Pokemon, Lorcana, or Star Wars content, there's more to be found over on our channel. So go ahead over and visit our channel and grab some of that content as well. If you want to just sort it by playlist, go over to playlist and pick out the game that you enjoy the most and check out some of the content. Thank you guys for tuning in for this episode for this video. And we'll see you in the next video.